Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Let's Talk Broncos. Today it is just Zach and I. Bree is on Broncos country tonight, so make sure you're tuning into that right after this. We're going to funnel all you guys over there, so you have to check Bree out tonight. She's going to be breaking down the coaches, everything like that with Ben Albright, and it's going to be a great show. So I highly recommend everybody tuning in there. But Zach, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling great. And yeah, everyone, top priority, head over there. It'll start at 6. We're going to try and do a quick show because we want to listen to it too. We got to support Bree. So go over there. KOA's Twitter. You can find a link, Broncos Country Tonight's Twitter, the iHeart, all that stuff. It should be very easy to find Bree's social media. I imagine you follow her. It'll be all over that. So yeah, we'll give you a quick update on the coaching search, and then we will all head over there and check that out.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, everyone, please. Can't emphasize it enough. Go over there and watch Bree again. But let's get right into it, Zach. I don't want to waste too much time. We had big DAmico Ryan's news today. Rappaport was indicating that it seems like he's going to be going to the Houston Texans. Nothing's set in stone yet, but it also seems like the Broncos aren't going to look towards that direction anymore. What are your opinions there, obviously, with that interview set in place now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the crazy thing for me is that, Houston's going to interview him first, so we're not interested. I wonder if that's like, I don't know, some hardball tactic or like, I don't get that. That is so illogical to me. Like there has to be some other reason. And maybe this is the cover, but this doesn't look good either. Like you were all interested in him. Seemingly, second interviews haven't been conducted this week. People haven't been flown in to, tour the facility or whatever. And it made sense if you were pursuing DAmico. All signs were pointing to DAmico. I was even hearing the DAmico stuff. It really did seem to be heating up in that direction. And now he's going to interview with Houston first. And so Denver's not interested.
Mm-hmm.
Something with Houston. I wonder if there's a handshake agreement with Houston already. And that's why Denver, they're not breaking the story. So they're not saying DAmico's with Houston, so we're not interested. But them immediately becoming uninterested just does not make sense to me. I feel like there has to be something there. Or even worse, Broncos ownership is doing something really unsensible, unadvisable. And I'd be really worried about that. But it sucks to miss out on DAmico. For me, it was like you had the big top two of Peyton and Harbaugh, and Peyton stumbled a ton with how weird that situation's gotten. But there was like a clear top of the elite proven coaches in this race. And then DAmico was right there as number 3. And then I think even passed up Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh for me at a point. And to have all 3 of those guys look at like long shots at best right now. It's disappointing. I'm worried about the state of the Broncos coaching search.
Yeah, and to get specific with it, what he said, what Rappaport said was the timeline simply does not work for the Denver Broncos. They would like to move maybe a little quicker, so they're looking elsewhere. Quicker, the word quicker drove me insane today. It drove me insane because it feels like the Broncos have been dragging their feet with this. So that kind of drove me insane. But yeah, I also think, Zach, that it's just hard to believe. It's really hard to believe. It's extremely hard to believe. I really want to hope that there's a plan in place here. Maybe it was to leverage Sean Payton more or something like that. Hey, we need to speed this process up. Let's throw out that DAmico's our number 1 guy. That's what I'm hoping. Otherwise, this looks crazy. Exactly for the reasons you said. If he is your top target and he is your guy and you have Walmart money at your expense, at least throw him an offer. See if he would take a substantially larger offer than what the Texans are offering him. If this is your guy, go get him. That's my thing. So I am holding out hope that this is part of some plan. I'm hoping it's part of some plan. Maybe Sean Payton was their guy all along and that's who they really want. I don't know. Everything's really confusing with this Broncos head coach search nowadays. And it's tough to exactly connect all these dots because dots are flying everywhere. I have no idea who the Broncos are even interested anymore.
Yeah, and we'll see how this ends. Like, there's a chance they stick the landing, but right now it feels really unlikely. One comment I want to highlight here, if you don't mind, Joey. Harbaugh still has not signed his Michigan contract. I do wonder if that's the way. Do you mind pivoting off DAmico, or do you have more you want to say about DAmico?
No, go ahead. All good.
Because I do wonder which way things are headed now for the Broncos head coaching search. Like, could it be Jim Harbaugh at this point? I think that's maybe the best possible outcome, but that seems kind of far-fetched. Maybe it's going to be Jim Caldwell. Maybe it's going to be David Shaw. Maybe it's going to be a mystery candidate that hasn't been named yet. Who could that mystery candidate be? Mike Shanahan? Could it be Brian Callahan? Could it like Lou Anarumo? I don't know. I'd be fine with some of those, but it seems like we're talking about a different caliber of candidate all of a sudden. I think outside of Harbaugh, who again, at least I'm not fully confident that he's back in the thing. I know he hasn't signed his Michigan contract yet, but I'm not sure if that means he's out at Michigan. It all feels very weird to me. Between David Shaw and Jim Caldwell, I think outside of the Broncos interviews, they've combined to have one interview elsewhere in the league this cycle. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a little concerning. And then mystery candidate, who could the mystery candidate be? Why isn't it being reported? I doubt it's a mainstream candidate. So we're maybe talking about 3 of the candidates in the hunt have one non-Broncos interview behind them. Like, that's not the end all be all of who's going to be a good head coach. I think in general, the NFL does a bad job evaluating prospective head coaches, but I don't know. That just bodes really bad. We're just in a very different caliber now.
1000%, Zach. And like, as far as the Jim Harbaugh thing goes, he would be, I don't know. He would be an asshole to leave Michigan at this point. Like, that's really something that has to be thrown out there. His staff's a part of that. They could be looking for jobs right now elsewhere. Like, there's other things that are going on. He recruits. He's promised that he's going to be there. Everything. It would be crazy of him, and it would be wrong of him, in my opinion, to leave that Michigan program for the Broncos. Now, if he did that, of course, I would be happy as a Broncos. But
how likely do you think that is?
I think it's so unlikely because I just can't imagine somebody screwing that many amount of people over. Like, it would be wrong of him to do it. That one's ruled out for me until proven otherwise. Maybe the Broncos go out there and they're like, Jim Harbaugh, I know you said no. You haven't signed that contract. How about we pay you this blank check right here? And that influences him. But it's just hard for me to believe. It's hard for me to believe at this point. I don't know who they're talking about when they say, I assume it is Harbaugh when those reports come out saying they're going to circle back around on candidates. I assume it's Harbaugh, what they're talking about. I don't know who else they could be circling back around on. They had something set up with Sean Payton. Like, I don't know.
There is a layer of mystery to this that I think with the mystery candidate, who could it be? I think I was seeing some buzz about maybe it being Brian Callahan or someone on the Bengals staff. Maybe that would be interesting to me. Robert Armstrong, fan of the show, is in the chat commenting maybe Brian Flores. I think I would love Brian Flores. Don't get me wrong. Unfortunately, Brian Flores is not unfortunately, he's suing the team. Unfortunately, the team has, I should be careful I say this, but there is a lawsuit afoot between Brian Flores and the Denver Broncos. And so I don't think the Denver Broncos are going to hire Brian Flores. Even if that happened under a past administration, I think it's just too messy. So that, unfortunately, as good of a coach as I think Brian Flores is, I think he's out in Denver. He says this Steelers said he might not be back. I hope he gets a coaching job somewhere. I think that's a big hurdle to him getting it in Denver. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I'd love to be wrong on that.
Because isn't the lawsuit against the league too? Like,
but the Broncos are specifically named in it.
But my bigger point of this is it's going to be hard for him to get a job anywhere as a head coach, not just specifically the Broncos, right? Because they were mentioned in it, but league wide, it's going to be hard for him.
Yeah, and the Broncos are specifically a defendant. It was tough. I don't know. I'll leave that there. The David Shaw thing, it's tough. Like Jim Caldwell would be my favorite, I think, out of the people that have a decent shot, because I don't see Jim Harbaugh making it.
I agree with you. I was saying this beforehand, but so Zach, remind me, what's his age exactly again? You knew it off the top.
68.
68 years old. 68 years old and health concerns, for those that aren't familiar. His last job, and I believe it was in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, was him being a quarterback coach with the Miami Dolphins then, and he had to leave that early due to a health scare. So that's worrisome. Without question, that is definitely worrisome on Caldwell's part. But I do also think he's the most qualified person here out of the guys that seem reasonable left. Maybe the Broncos can go get Sean Payton. Maybe I'm overblowing this and believing too much of what I'm just hearing, all the smoke, everything like that. But if I'm not including him, not including Harbaugh, not including DAmico, I think he is our best guy. To winning records in being a head coach on two different teams. The first coach since the 1974, I think it was, to leave the Detroit Lions with a winning record. Like, he's done good things in the NFL. I believe that, let's say Russell Wilson doesn't work out this year, Jim Caldwell might be one of the better guys actually in this entire group I would feel comfortable with in drafting and developing a quarterback. That is something
helping Wilson.
And helping Wilson. That's something I think Caldwell, I believe heavily in. And I think he's deserved a chance in the league for a while now. It sucks we've gotten to this point with Caldwell where we're so worried about his age, when in reality, he probably should have been hired a while ago where this wouldn't have been such an issue. That's something. So I think Caldwell could be the guy. And I think I would be happy, or not happy, but I would be like, I wouldn't be jumping up and down, but I'd be like, okay, we got Caldwell. You know what? It didn't end up as bad as I thought it could have, being in the situation the Broncos were in. So I'm not mad at Caldwell at this point. Zach, what's your opinion on Caldwell?
Caldwell I'd be fine with. And I think Caldwell could put together an amazing staff too, considering how connected he is inside the league. That's something where it was a concern with DAmico. Hey, this guy hasn't been coaching long. What connections does he have inside the coaching fraternity? That's not a concern with Jim Caldwell. He has been around for a long time. He's got a lot of good coaches in his Rolodex. I'd be a big fan of that one, including Brian Flores, though, again, might be tough to make that one happen in Denver. But also is part of Joey, you were telling me he's part of, or maybe it was Bree, one of you two were talking about how he was on a chair on some board or something about helping minority coaches get into the league. And frankly, I think that's
a speaker for that. Yeah, he's a proponent in bringing awareness to it. That is something he participates in. I don't know where he stands in there. I don't know, but he does participate in that frequently.
And right now, that's a market inefficiency in the NFL. Like the lack of minority coaches, like guess what? Like this league should be pumping out more DAmico Ryans. I don't think that's an extreme outlier. Like there is an untapped well of coaching talent here. And right now, exploiting that well has the benefit of not only giving you amazing coaching that the rest of the league is foolishly ignoring. Look at Ejiro Evero. Perfect example of that. Been in the league for 14 years, never had got a shot as a coordinator, gets a shot at as a coordinator immediately, looks like he might get a head coaching job. Multiple teams are bringing him back for second interviews. And even if he doesn't ultimately get those jobs, he's going to get a DC job somewhere. And I bet he does another or does more outstanding work. Really been impressed by him. So I don't know. I love that aspect of Jim Caldwell. Oh, and also, if you are successful with that strategy, you get third-round picks out of it, which I think the Broncos need because I think they're on the verge of a rebuild.
Totally. Kind of getting off that a little bit, Lindsey Bibo hops in the comments. Shout out to Lindsey Bibo. Make sure you're checking all of her work out at Mile High Sports. Fantastic writer. She said, Zach, and I'm still going to throw this question to you because I think I want to hear your response here. Why should I still have any hope for this organization? As you said right now, give us the reasons why.
It hasn't gone wrong yet with this ownership group. Like, I agree, this looks so fishy. This looks wild, but it hasn't gone fully bad yet. My stock up, stock down is going to publish the moment after we get out of here. I'll shout that out in a little. This is an important article to me. Please check that one out. It would mean a lot to me. But anyways, doing some research for that, I was looking back over Russell Wilson's season because he is stock down. I think he's hurt his stock this season. And the two big declines I noticed were accuracy and his ability to escape the pocket. And there are stats that really show this. Like CPOE, he went from best in the history of the stat CPOE to below average in the 2022 season. So just wild drop off. Now, could the torn lat be the cause of that? I think that's possible. I don't know if I think that's what it is, but it's at the very least possible. Pocket escaping or escaping pressure rather. He went from, despite his time to throw going down, meaning he's getting rid of the ball quicker, his sack rate went up. He had a higher percentage of his pressures turn into sacks. And that's not a product of the offensive line because we're already looking at pressures. We're already assuming the pressure is coming. Okay, so what is the quarterback doing once that pressure arrives? Are they throwing it away? Are they finding a receiver? Are they scrambling out of the play or whatever? This is the highest rate of Russell Wilson's career that's turned into sacks, 27% versus 19% over the last 5 years. That's a jump of 40%. That's crazy. Could that be the hamstring? Sorry, Lindsey. Point is, if that's injury, you get 9 months removed from that. He's healthy next season. You get the Nathaniel Hackett stink off of him. You saw what that could do the last 2 games. Maybe Russell Wilson isn't the total disaster he appears to be. And then maybe the ownership sticks to landing on this coaching thing. It looked like the Colts made a total disaster with the Josh McDaniels thing. When he went back to New England, it was like, oh my God, who are the Patriots? Or not the Patriots. Who are the Colts going to hire? They're screwed. They don't have anyone now. And they wound up with Frank Reich. And I think Frank Reich was a much better hire than Josh McDaniels would have been. Sometimes this stuff just like works out. Maybe they wind up with Shane Steichen as a result of this. Maybe they wind up with Jonathan Gannon as a result of this. And those guys end up being the cure-all. Like, it hasn't gone bad yet. It could, but that's why you should be hopeful, Lindsey. I don't think it's like the nail isn't in the coffin yet. And that's why you should have hope. Like the countdown's going on or going down on the timer in the action movie, but the bomb hasn't exploded.
Yes. And adding on to that, here's the main thing why I feel like you should have hope, Lindsey. Zach's face is indicating something's going on. We'll catch. What do you have something to say? No, you're all good. Okay. I think this is the reason why you should have hope. NFL teams are really, really flawed at hiring coaches, and a lot of times you just happen to stumble into really good coaches. That's the big reason why. May I remind you, just last year, what were the Jaguars doing? Jaguars lost out on Nathaniel Hackett to get Doug Peterson.
And the Byron Leftwich thing looked like a disaster. The fans were dressing up like clowns to go to games to call their GM a clown.
I mean, I'm just saying that's something.
Lawrence looked like a bust. He was a bottom 5 quarterback last year.
Yes, exactly. So that's something to definitely keep in mind is that, hey, the NFL process through draft, every evaluation thing, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. And matter of fact, it's severely flawed. It's very severely flawed in a lot of areas, specifically head coaching hires, which is the reason why the Broncos happened to find a Nathaniel Hackett anyways. And didn't even interview with Brian DePaul. They didn't even interview with Doug Peterson. So it's very possible that their fifth best option is their best option. And so that's just kind of what I have there. But anyways, guys, this was going to be a really this one was going to be a really good, quick show for us. I want everyone here to be able to go tune into Bree's KOA appearance. Make sure everyone goes do that. Zach, what's up?
Yeah, definitely want to echo that sentiment. Just I wanted to make sure you weren't going to end the broadcast without me saying definitely check out Bree. But I just wrote my last stock up, stock down of the Broncos season. Some big things are changing, again, not with LTB, but in my life and with my coverage. And this stock up, stock down is one of the very first things I ever wrote for Mile High Sports. It's a series that has had a special place in my heart that as long as I've worked here. And it would mean a lot to me if all the LTB people would go check that out as well. At the moment you're done listening to Bree, it just published on milehighsports.com. I just clicked the publish button as Joey was talking. So go check that out. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you.
Yeah, and then definitely go check out Zach's amazing work with Mile High Sports. He's killed that stock up, stock down this entire season, and it's finally come to the finale. You can't miss the finale episode in anything. Like, you're not a
this
fan.
This is the biggest article I've ever written or wrote.
It's make sure you're going to check
4,800 words.
Out.
It's detailed, man.
Yes, so go check that out without question. For me, everybody, make sure you're following me at JR Drafts. Find all my writing at Mile High Sports stuff. I'm going to get a lot more active in there. So make sure you're checking all that out. I'm still working on my piece. My Edge piece, that should be coming out very shortly, like very, very shortly. And then, and check out Frankie and I's draft show every single Thursday. Happy birthday to Frankie as well. Everyone spam happy birthday in the chat. But until next time, guys, go Broncos.